us. So I want to know. So we are going to talk about autism and ADHD. First I would like to know is how many cases do you see in your OPD who have ADHD or diagnosed as autism and look come to you?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and I think this is the topic which is.
How early can the diagnosis be made? Because see, if a parent is aware that there is a problem, they might, come in earlier.
The earliest feature or the earliest sign.
So, do you see the patients coming in or the parents bringing them in because the teacher told them or the performance was bad, or it's just that
The majority of the times, the teachers are the ones who pick it
Yeah.
up quite early.
There's somewhere, I feel as a member of the society, if we have to see a child with autism, what can we do?
First, we also as a society should start being accepting.
Is there something which we can differentiate very clearly, or a teacher should understand that this child is probably ADHD and probably we should do something about it?
Actually, this is a very, very important question because it's a very small line.
Hello everyone, here we have Dr. Kavita, who is an accomplished neurologist. The best bit of her introduction is she is a pediatrician and a neurologist. So who best can answer these questions for us? So I want to know, so we are going to talk about autism and ADHD. So you also know that everybody, it's quite interconnected and two parts of the spectrum, right? First I would like to know is how many cases do you see in your OPD who have ADHD or diagnosed as autism and come to you?
Well, that's a wonderful question, and I think this is the topic which has to be explained to many of the parents, because the understanding of these diseases is the first step in managing the problem very effectively. So coming to the question, I must say in the OP practice of so many years, there has been an exponential increase in the number of cases compared
Is
to
it the
maybe around
numbers are
10.
increasing or the awareness is increasing?
I guess both.
Both.
I
Okay.
guess both.
Okay.
Yeah, earlier, I can even say around 10-15 years ago, the people started to know, and people started to diagnose these conditions like ADHD, autism, and then came autistic spectrum disorders and all that. So now the number of children who are getting affected are getting increased, and again the awareness is getting increased because again it's going to be a small family, so the symptoms are being watched even more carefully, I must say. I think that's what I feel, because back home our own professors have told that they have not diagnosed so many children with, it was always neuro infections earlier, it was always infections, malnutrition, those were the burning problems what they had faced, our senior colleagues. So what we are seeing now is this increase in the number, which is quite alarming, and the reason could be both, as you said, could be the increased awareness, increased identification of the problem, and we also expect a lot from when there is one child or two child in a family, the expectation is more, and when it is not matched up to what is being expected, the performance level or academic excellence is not up to the level, and they do not know what is the problem.
So when you said the awareness is more, so do you see the patients coming in or the parents bringing them in because the teacher told them or the performance was bad, or it's just that the mother has been so observant and they found it out?
The majority of the times, the teachers are the ones who pick it
Yeah.
up quite early. Quite early, because
I think there's an awareness program for the teachers all to understand this problem,
yes,
right?
yes, I think
So that's
it is
good, right?
Yes, definitely good, because especially the pre school, I mean the pre-KG, LKG, and UKG, those teachers, and they are having this training to identify, and it is very important, because that is the exact time, if it is picked up quite early, and brought it to the notice of the parents when they can get the expert help. The right way of management, if started early, always has a better efficient management of
Yeah.
these problems.
That's true. So, what would you advise a parent to look for? I mean, at some time you feel that when the awareness is created, then the parent gets so jittery over everything. They're saying, "Oh my God, probably my child has got this. Probably this is it." And now it's like become a fashion statement. Oh, he's got ADHD. I mean, that's not true, right?
Yes.
So, what would you say? Like when you should take the action, or what the parent can do if they have even saw their, seen their child have some problem? Then how to go about it?
Yes, actually, you have rightly mentioned it, because the it is so fashionable
Yeah.
now for everybody to immediately judge the child, that telling that, oh, he is having autism, and that terminology sometimes, even before diagnosing that the children are having autism, ADHD, or autistic spectrum disorder, we call it now.
Yeah.
Just wanted to mention that, because clinically the neurologist and the child psychiatrist would want to mention it as autistic spectrum disorder rather than autism. But the word autism is very common now, commonly used, told by any, not even a medical person can even tell that the child is having autism, because the child, he or she is little mischievous, or they really don't know which category they belong to, or we right in calling those names. So many a times I have to tell that this is not autism. That has been many a times.
But that's such a relief to the mother, right?
Yes, yes. I will say the first thing I would say is, no, this is not autism. So this is the domains where the child is having a problem. Suppose some parents also have a little more awareness early. I have to tell them that this is not autism, or this is a spectrum which can be managed. So it is very important not to judge right away just with one particular behavior or one particular problem or just one particular academic skill the child is weak on, to call a name or brand the child with a judgment of a lifetime diagnosis.
True, true, very true. And it's so, and then they glorify it also.
Yes.
And then they say, no, he's got ADHD, so it's fine, he cannot do this. But is it that acceptable? I mean, or the parent can work on the child and make sure that the child can come at least near normal or something?
It's actually, maybe to explain this, I would want to elaborate, like, what exactly is the problem in the autistic spectrum disorder, the ADHD, the learning disability. Is it's not an abnormal brain. Definitely. So because again the question would be like, will my child become normal? So the answer
that's so
is
nice to know, no? That it's not an abnormal brain.
Yes,
so the parent has to understand that the brain is not abnormal. They're absolutely fine, and a little bit of tweaking probably, right?
Yes. It is the again the understanding of this problem is very important, and that is the first step of the management or the treatment.
Especially if it is ADHD, then you can really take care of it really well, and over a period of time they'll be absolutely normal, right?
Yes, exactly. So so coming back to the point, it is not the abnormal brain. Rather, the brain, certain parts of the brain, certain parts of the circuits within the brain, they work differently, or they are developed in a different way. Like I can say, like a computer which works with a different software, not with the usual software. We can maybe understand that way better. So if we understand this way, we need not expect like, when will my child become normal? So it is very important when we classify these children having autistic spectrum disorder, where there is a level 1, level 2, level 3, or it is an ADHD. So even in these two spectrums, they can coexist, and so there can be only certain problems, and they can be exceptionally talented in one field. So they may not fall into the mainstream of the so-called educational mark gaining system, but they can be exceptionally talented in one field which we do not approve as a real professional. Most of the
that's something really sad, because I think our educational system is also set in such a way that it has to be the mark which has been scored, which identifies the child as an intelligent child or a not so smart or a not a very intelligent kid. But that's one way sad also, but one way I think it makes life easier for many of the parents because then they assess. So that's the only assessment over here in India we have.
But I must say, we are in the crossroads, ma'am, like
Okay.
towards the thing, because we are also having schools where they
Yeah.
have a separate section where they identify these kids, and then they are given more time in
Yeah.
performing the examinations, and they are also into the mainstream of education, the normal school, and but still they have special educators who take an extra care in exact domains where they are weak and all that, because some children may fare little less marks in maths, they may be very good in art.
Yeah, true,
So
true.
I think the schools are now changing. I
Changing,
think we
true.
are at the crossroad. Probably we'll really be
Yeah,
near
we are
the
still
end.
developing, so we
Yes,
should be
yes.
there soon.
So
Well,
hope-
when you say autism, autism is the extreme end of the spectrum of autism.
Yes.
Is quite a challenge for the parent or for anybody, even for the child, right? But when we talk about ADHD, it can be graded into several grades.
Grades.
Yeah, and then that can be handled also in a different way, and the person can become normal over a period of time.
Yes.
So those things, can you describe a little more on that? So which you would call the extreme spectrum where they really need professional help, and then the spectrum where it becomes a little lesser and
Yes, lesser.
yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. Again, the in autistic spectrum disorder also we have level 1, level 2, level 3.
Okay.
So depending on the support they need, like level 3 would be the most severe, from where even for their daily activities they would require help, even for their own routine daily activities. That's a very severe form of autism. And there are the level 1, level 2 where at earlier age, if we are going to intervene and then we are going to change the path where they have to travel or how to cope with, there are certain mechanisms where it's going to be a team effort. Maybe we'll discuss about the management part little more elaborately. And coming to ADHD, as you rightly said, their performance, maybe there is also, we commonly call them as high performing ADHD. So those people, they will have the problems in advancing in their own life or what they want to do. It will be sometimes like aggressive behavior. So certain symptoms in these problems, the severity of those symptoms may require professional help, like for hyperactivity.
Okay.
Per se. So in that case, the therapy alone may not be sufficient for them. So it's very important that there should be a team which is going to diagnose these children, who is going to approach these children, who is going to plan a treatment pattern for at least a year or two.
Alright.
During the initial phase, the developing phase, because catching them early, we can definitely make them come to that near normal, or at least normal from what they were before.
Okay.
So at least that we can, if not to, there is a normalcy, at least from the comparison could be made like how these children were before, a year earlier, and how they are doing now. So that definitely we can achieve.
Okay. That's very heartening actually.
Yes.
And then one more thing I always see is when we tell a parent, like I have seen some kids who come up with this problem, and when you tell them that the child might have ADHD, and you have to handle the child with care, because they come and complain that the child doesn't study well, the child that the child is a bit of a duffer, but that's very unfair, because the child is probably a very intelligent child, but their expertise is not, as you said, in the subjects which are taught in school, and which are the ones which need to secure marks, like maths or a science, so they might be having interest in several different things. So at that point of time, you have to think about it differently. But there's one thing I've noticed is they come and say that my child recites very well. The memory of these children are so good actually.
Yes.
And then they say, how can the teacher say that the child doesn't study well? Anything you say, the child remembers, and the child will say later also. So my child is not a duffer. So that differentiation of being a child who's lesser in intelligence and being an attention deficit child, they are two different things, right?
Yes, exactly, ma'am. Very rightly pointed out, because the intelligence of the child is no way connected to these two problems, or rather the intelligence is not directly proportional to the severity of the problem, be it autistic spectrum disorder or ADHD, or we have one more category in that which you have mentioned, which is learning disability, where the dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia. So this part, it is important again to identify, because this child, as you told, can be exceptionally intelligent, where they can memorize a lot, they can recite, but they cannot write.
Yeah.
So the writing part, so again the part of the brain which is working on controlling the writing part, what we have learned, so that is where the processing is different for that child.
Okay.
So, and I have advised to certain parents to make the child not read from the books, rather to they can record it, or somebody else can read it, they listen to it, and then they can write it, because
Okay.
without reading they can understand or take it to their memory better when
Yeah,
they
yeah. Their
listen.
memory is very good actually.
Yes.
Many of them have got excellent
Yeah,
memory.
the auditory memory, we call it as verbal memory or auditory memory, is
Okay.
way better. For example, I will just elaborate, like for example, if a child reads apple, sometimes that child may not be able to memorize the combination of the words is apple, but when the child sees the picture of the apple, he or she knows that it's apple. So correlated with that, or sometimes sometimes the letters are not stored as letters in certain children's brain, they are stored as a picture in their brain. So basically there are some kids, even the so-called the normal kids, we tell, the left brain oriented children, they are very good with letters, speaking, elocution, and the right brain oriented children are very good in art, painting. So they will understand the word a or the word apple or the letter a as a picture. So wherever they see a, they remember of the picture rather than a. So it's very different. So for these kids, so the way we teach them itself is completely different. The way we teach these kids are completely different. So rather than telling that, oh, this child cannot read apple, so the child is a duffer. No. So I think that is what has to be understood by the parents as well as the teachers also, because they cannot, they should identify where exactly the domain in the academic skill there is a deficiency or a difficulty, that has to be addressed in their way, maybe.
So that's a lot of things to, I think, go through, analyze, and then figure out where exactly the child would fit in. Well, there's one more thing I always keep saying is there is, there are naughty children, They have this ideas with sparks in their brain and then they just want to run and do something. But there are these ADHD kids also, because their mind works in a very different pattern, their thought process is like this. So when that happens, so what is the difference between them? I mean, is there something which we can differentiate very clearly, or a teacher should understand that this child is probably ADHD and probably we should do something about it?
Ma'am, actually, this is a very, very important question, because it's a very small line,
A very thin line,
very
actually.
thin line, which says that, oh, he is mischievous. No, this is ADHD. Because once again, the moment we are going to give a diagnosis for the mischief done by a child, it's going to be a lifelong diagnosis. So for that, I would say certain clinical points. We always see certain deviation in their behavior. Like for example, a child, a naughty boy is always shouting in the class, or calling out names, or doing, probably usually this happens in the kindergarten to the first standard kind of. So that time that the teacher would definitely find out that mistake, give a punishment or whatever, make him stand outside, or just say that no, you are not supposed to. He gets a scolding or something. So that should register in the child's brain. That's called emotional memory, telling that, oh, this is something wrong. The teacher doesn't like it. So the teacher has given, has spoken in a very rough way, or the way which I don't like. So I must not repeat it. So that's the normal response for a naughty boy. So the naughtiness may be there. Next time, the evolution of the development would be, the child may be naughty again, but not when the teacher is around.
Oh, okay. That's so.
Yeah, not when the teacher. The teacher comes, he keeps quiet. So that's a very normal response, we know. So even at homes, sometimes the mothers might say that he is mischievous when I'm around, but he is okay, he's behaving well when.
But that's natural, right?
Yes. So that is the normal deviation which the child exhibits. So it's always only, as I told ma'am, like when again and again he's repeating the same mistake, that the teacher, with all the punishments, with all possible, they threaten, they make them stand up. Even with that, they're going to behave in a deviant way, not sitting in one place, disturbing the class often. I think these are the things, that is where the differentiation comes.
Okay. that is when you know that the child is not registering it in their
Yes,
mind.
yes.
So then when they were already forgotten the punishment.
Forgotten the punishment. Yes.
So
yes.
that's not normal for a child.
Sometimes it's
right?
not even perceived as punishment for them. Oh, it's
Yeah.
another task. Oh, it's like that. So that is
Yeah, that also I've heard,
Yes.
And the teacher will be actually very angry and punishing, and the child would act as if, that the child is taking it as a jovial thing and laughing over that also and having fun. And actually, the teachers get very irritated with that.
Very irritated.
Yeah, and then the
Very-
complaint to the parent
Yes.
is that when I am angry, he's acting so cheeky.
Correct.
But probably that's not cheekiness, right?
That is definitely not cheekiness, but rather the child is in trouble.
Oh
So the
my,
child
that's-
needs,
yeah.
yes. So again, that stress becomes entirely on the family, because it is always then that is guilt shamed on the family. Then it is about the parenting. All that comes around. But rather, that child requires a different kind of.
And a child at that age doesn't have an ego, right?
No.
So calling the child cheeky is probably very unfair.
It's
then.
very unfair. It's very, very unfair, actually. Yes. So understanding them is very difficult. So probably the moment we see that, okay, this behavior is not all right, the first thing the teachers, they usually do and is inform the parents that I think your child needs
Some
attention
help,
or an evaluation. But it's up to the parents' side. Most of the times they become very sensitive about it.
Yeah,
So there comes the acceptance part becomes difficult. Suppose sometimes even one parent accepts it, the other parent gets very, very defensive about like, no. I was like this when I was
young,
as
yeah.
a child. Now my mother took care of it. Why don't you do it? The husband usually tell the mother, no, it is because you are pampering. The wife might tell the husband. So it can be like this, rather than addressing what exactly the child needs at that.
So it's not only the child, but the parents also need help then.
Yes.
They also need the counseling and the hand holding which is required to understand such a child and take care of a child like that. So that's really interesting, because that's something which nobody thinks about, right? This is where the whole thing of prevention comes in, that we always talk about who is affected and we do not talk about the people around them who are getting affected by the scenario. So Dr. Kavita, the next thing would be, I want to know, like, how early can the diagnosis be made? Because see, if a parent is aware that there is a problem, they might, come in earlier with the problem, and then the child can be helped quite a bit more. Because, the development itself in a child in the first 6 years is a lot more than in the later stages of life, right? So if earlier the diagnosis, better the outcome. So for that, what would you say?
The earliest feature or the earliest sign the parent should be aware of is first to know the normal developmental milestones which are expected in a child, right from the baby is born. Like from the second or third month, there should be a social smile. The baby should smile when the mother tries to pacify, or should have a proper eye contact with the mother. First is always the mother. So the mother, and then subsequently by 1 year the child should be able to walk without support, and by around 1.5 years, I would say 16 to 18 months to be more specific. So before 2 years, the child should have been able to utter few meaningful words. Not only
Hey,
mama.
there's a problem in that nowadays. I think we should, can we talk about it now or should we take it later? I do not know. Okay. I'll just tell you this, because what is happening is, they have children a little later in life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then what happens, the pampering is way higher.
Yes.
So they don't even put the child down. Many times I have seen that, the normal milestones are not happening only.
Yes.
And the child doesn't roll over. And then they have this thing, if my child crawls, it might get dirty. It's touching surfaces. It's touching dirty things.
True.
Yeah. So, these parents, they don't allow the child to crawl at all.
Yes.
So, this child starts walking directly.
Directly.
So, so I mean, it's not like a milestone has been missed, right?
Yeah, actually skipping milestone is again a problem. They don't understand. Skipping a milestone, usually they always say, no, my child never crawled, directly sat on the high chair and directly started walking.
That's as if it's becoming very stylish and
no,
a privileged child.
It's not. It's not. And then actually in this I would like to think is we have to completely avoid having the child in a walker. We have all
True.
sizes of walker where the gait becomes a little problem. We strongly I mean tell that not to use it. At least with the wheels on, they tend to have even at 6 months of age, they are very happy that, oh, the child is moving,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
with the
yeah.
help of the walker. But that, I think, has to be avoided.
Avoided,
So coming back to this, I think this milestone should be normal. And we always say a child never learns to walk without falling down.
True.
So now what happens is, as you rightly
Yeah.
said, they don't want the child to fall down, but they
Yeah.
directly want to
Yeah.
walk perfectly.
And then crawling is dirty because the
Crawling is
floor is,
dirty, yes.
we also show so much of bacteria. Then the child puts the hand on the floor, then they
Yes,
say,
yes.
oh, they'll touch the bacteria, they'll get infection.
Infection and all this. Yes, yes, this is also happening. So this normal, actually, I always advise the parents should enjoy this, the milestones, this what they see in a child when they crawl, when they have a small fall and they try to get up on their own, on his or her own effort. So all this is very, very important in the maturity the child, the baby develops, when the brain develops. So the maturity of the circuits, the strengthening of the developmental circuits is happening exactly as you said, from the moment the baby is born up to 3, I can say up to 4 to 5 years. Even after that, the prefrontal cortex keeps on developing, even during adolescence. But still, this is the phase where there is a rapid growth. Right from the in utero phase, the phase when the baby is inside the womb, and then till the baby is around 3 to 4 years of age or 5 years of age. So this is a very important period. So during this developmental milestone, when there is an undue delay, like when the rough part, or broadly we can say, if the child doesn't walk, that's a visible part where the milestone is getting delayed. That would immediately get the attention from the to the parents, like that my child has to walk in the first birthday. At least we used to say that the child should stand without a support to cut a cake on the first birthday. That's to remember it very easily. 1.5 years of age, before 2 years of age, the baby, the child should utter few meaningful, 2 to 3 meaningful words. If that is not attained, so the language delay is one important earliest sign the parents can identify, and then they can come for a detailed developmental assessment.
Okay, that there also, no, when you said language, what I was seeing is these younger mums, they give so many gadgets to the children
Yes.
that they don't bother to make any noises. And not only that, then they're pampered so much. There's a maid standing right next to them. Then the mother is at the disposal because the child is so important. And of course, the child becomes a very precious child also, especially if they have had a precious child, all the more. So what they do is then the child just has to put the hand out and say, it's
it,
given.
immediately given. Yes,
Given.
immediately
So,
given.
these
Yeah.
children never learn to talk at all. They don't find the necessity to talk.
Yes, and the worst part, ma'am, they as you said, it is directly handed over, and they come back. When they come back to us, blaming the child. He is always using the mobile. The first question I would ask him, who gave him the mobile? I think that person needs a treatment rather than the child.
That's so very true. That's so
that
true.
is very true, because it's very easy. It is very
yeah.
difficult. He's always addicted to mobile. It's very easily they put the blame on the child, when we are the ones who have introduced them to the.
In those children, I've seen that they talk a little delayed.
Yes. Yes.
What is this? I mean, is there a specific neurological problem which is causing it, or it's just that the child doesn't find it necessary to talk at all?
Actually, to understand this, they even call it as virtual autism and all that. There is it's not a scientific term, I would say. Probably,
but that is imbibed by the parent only, no?
Yes.
Nobody else is to that to blame, right? Because you're introducing a gadget very early.
Very early.
And the child is so clinging on to the gadget, and then you are very happy that the child is occupied with the gadget.
Yes.
And the child doesn't find it necessary to talk to. I think the social communication is the problem, or it's the neurological development which is leading to the problem.
This actually is a very interesting part. Is many children now, it has become very widely happening habit of the mothers or the parents to give the mobile, so that their life is peace. At least they are at peace for some time till they are. It is very difficult to keep occupying them for a long time. So that is where this problem arises. They are introduced, but at one point of time, when they know that the child is having an odd behavior, where at the age where the child should learn the social interaction, social communication, Like suppose a relative comes to the house, an example is when they go back, they say bye bye,
Bye.
tata. So they understand, oh, this gesture is to say bye, and
Big
they have to
bye.
repeat it again. So this is a learning process during their thing. It's a very a common thing which occurs. Now we can see when a relative comes to the house, this child is glued to the
The phone,
gadget. They don't even know who comes, who goes, when they are going, when they say bye. Mother will say, see, uncle is leaving, say bye. They'll like will look up like this and then go back
And
to
I
the
don't think the
gadget.
parents insist also. They
They
say,
don't
my
insist.
child is like this, acceptance about the child doing
Exactly.
whatever
They,
is
in fact, they
acceptable.
put the blame on the child, like, oh, he's like this. We are trying hard to change, but he's not changing. This is what is happening. So this is a normal thing. So again, I wouldn't say this particular behavior is autism yet, because this can be changed now.
Yeah,
Because
true.
you're again going to be little assertive in telling that no, this is not the time for your gadget, and then it is this time to interact with the relative or the friend or the family. Then this is going to change. But what happens in certain children, because basically now there are many researchers have told this autism spectrum disorder, ADHD is all because of the epigenetic factors. The genetic factors play a major role. So there are genes which can be dormant in a child, which can be activated by this extended screen hours. So
Okay.
that is the concept behind it. So not all children may develop just because they're glued to the thing. It is bad. I don't want to normalize it
I
also. I
know.
want to take it with a caution. Big, but still, we do not know which child is going to develop that autism or lose the social interactive skill, the social communicative skill the child should have attained at that part, because of these extended screen hours or glued to the gadget. So that is where, so generally it is absolutely better to avoid the gadgets at very young age, so that we do not know whether which child is going to develop autism. We are going to hasten the process, or we are going to make sure that the child is definitely going to get autism. So there are children who are not genetically prone to develop autism.
Okay.
They can be brought back to their normal or the normal social adaptive behavior can be caught up way better if these children are not prone to develop that. So it
Okay.
is always
So,
better
so
to go
that's
off
so
screen.
heartening, right?
Yes.
To know, because then that can change the world so much
Yes.
for everybody, for the child, for the family around them, and for the society around them also.
Yes.
Well, when talking about all these things, I was just thinking that, what can a mother or a parent or a relative or whoever is there do for the child to make sure that the child development is, getting better, even if they have autism or autism spectrum disease, like a child has been diagnosed with autism or a autism spectrum disease, because I want to just address this as a whole, and if that is done, and then I want to know what a mother should do, or a parent, or the parents or the family members should do to make sure that the child is helped a lot more to come back to normalcy.
Yes, because it's very important that first the family, the
Yeah.
relatives should help and stop guilt shaming the parents that it is because you did this, the child got this, you did this. The first, that should not happen within the family or the relatives. That's the first part. So then the mother and father, the first step is acceptance. So
That's
yes,
very difficult, not to
it's
accept.
very
Oh,
difficult. It's
it's
very,
a
very,
hard
very
one.
easy said
I
than
know,
done,
hard.
because it's very, very difficult. It takes a lot of courage, but by the time we make them understand, because it's very important that they go to the next step.
True,
So only
true.
they accept, then they go to the next step, even before it's too late. So first they have to accept the fact that there is a difference in the way my child is going to process whatever is going to he or she is going to see and learn and then proceed in the life. Number one. Number two will be at home. Probably the first thing is, as we had already discussed about the screen time, the first thing would be to spend time with the child.
Oh, that's true.
So that's a very, very important thing. Not just spending time, and spending time the way sometimes being instructed or advised by the neurologist, by the child psychiatrist, by the therapist, they would have definitely given some information to the parents, like they have to behave certain way to the child. So to be more specific in this spending time, what they can do is, some I have heard some mother or father telling me that I punish them. So when they do it, I punish them. So then only then he does that. Like literally, I would say that only if I beat, he listens to what I say. That
Oh.
should not be the way these children should
Be
be
handled,
raised,
yeah.
or the mistakes what they do, the inappropriate behavior has to be dealt with. Rather, there should be positive reinforcement at home. So I would say, like, immediately give an applaud. It can be an applaud. Just clap your hands when he does the
Oh,
thing
that's
which is
wonderful.
expected. That small clapping of hand will be registered in the brain much better than so many scoldings and so many beatings. All these would be registered in a very negative way. I will say we should not be the one to introduce a violence to a child. So suppose
Okay.
something happens which we don't like, you can use violence. That shouldn't be the thing what we should teach our child, because when time comes, he may use the same strategy. He or
Oh
she may
my,
use the same strategy.
that's yeah.
So that is so, because the problem itself is they do not understand the rules of right and wrong. That is exactly the basic problem. So positive reinforcement, like maybe giving a star, a place of reward can be kept in their homes. A star is given when they have cleaned up after playing. If they've cleaned up, telling an example, they cleaned up the toys and put in safe place, the entire family can applaud, give a, like, a standing ovation or an applaud, like, excellent, very good. All these things go and register very well. Then he keeps repeating it.
Yeah.
And it's not like bribing. Oh, you do this, I give a chocolate. You do this, I give the mobile for you to play. That shouldn't be the case.
Okay.
It should be an emotional reinforcement in a very positive way, like giving a star, golden star. Or you do some mischief. There is always, in this teacher training also, they have this thing called timeout system, where for a moment the mother or father say, I don't play with you because you have done this mischief. You're not supposed to do this. You behave in certain way. I wouldn't talk to you, or I wouldn't play with you for some time. So that a small rejection part will hit them really hard. That might make them understand that, oh, this is not the right way to behave. So that is called a negative not a negative reinforcement way, the timeout system. Instead of punishing them, we can tell that, no, this is not, if you behave this way, we are not going to spend time with you. Because this child is going to really relish the time they're going to spend with the parents, because that is the more predictable, very safe environment, rather than in a school or outside or in a therapist place as well. So I think that's a very important first step to be done by the parents at home to raise these children.
Well, when we spoke about so many things, do you think that these children are affected so much that in their adolescence and when they are adults, their behavior has to be, channelized in a particular way? Because what I have read and about ADHD children is when they grow older, also they have problem, handling relationships. I mean, they are the people who do not settle well with their lives, even with their partners, even if they have ADHD also. It might not be very obvious. They might be having a job, they might be doing very well, and in fact, some of them are very intelligent, and you can call them a little bit eccentric also to that level, because they do a little bit of things differently. And but the fact remains that they probably do not stick on to one job. They probably jump from one thing to other, and the same thing with their relationships also.
Yes.
So what can be done to make sure that this aspect is also handled quite early, so that later on in their life they live a full fledged life, like at least a fulfilled life which they wish to live.
Exactly, ma'am. Actually, thanks to addressing that part, because this in this spectrum disorder and the developmental disorders, the ADHD is one thing which can be overlooked,
Okay.
or it can be misdiagnosed. So ADHD is one thing which can be misdiagnosed earlier, or mistaken for a normal mischief, or normally they don't do well in academics, and that can be carried over over a period of time, and then during adolescence and then in adulthood this can go. And there is this adult ADHD part which is often underdiagnosed, or which is left unnoticed, which is having a lot of issues in the family, as you rightly told. It mainly in the relationships, especially with between husband and wife, or the in the office, at workplace. They may be extremely intelligent, they'll be extremely productive, but when it comes to interaction, or when it comes to a teamwork, they fail miserably, and they have a tough time with that. So this has to be addressed to that. This is the very reason we say that this behavioral pattern has to be assessed quite early, and has to be addressed even in the earlier phase, so that even during adolescence and adulthood, if this is diagnosed, there is a set of medications which can improve their attention,
Okay.
there is which can improve their skill, their focus. So these are certain areas in this spectrum disorder where the medications help, along with the therapy, along with the way their strengths has to be channelized. I
Okay.
think, adding to your previous question also, the important thing the parents should do even at the earlier thing, when they know what is their negative part, these children what they are not good at, it is also important to identify what are their strengths,
Okay.
because they can be exceptionally well in there can be extremely good strengths what they have in certain areas, that has to be channelized and nurtured. That can be done even during the adolescent phase. The same thing can help them in their adult life. I will just quote one example. There was a couple who came, the husband brought the wife telling that almost they were at the verge of divorce, telling that she is taking almost 2 to 2 hours, she is daydreaming, she is not taking care of the child. She enters the
Oh.
kitchen, she is taking 2.5 hours to make one coffee, or 1 hour to make a tea, to finish the morning course she's taking. And the mother-in-law keeps complaining that she's daydreaming, she is not good for anything. We have married a child, you have married a girl who's not good enough, who's now we don't even use the term mentally retarded.
Yeah,
We
I
don't
know.
even use the term. That was the term which was told, and then was what. Then, with all the detailed analysis, we found what she had was adult ADHD.
Oh, okay.
With just intervening with that, she became completely all right over a few months of time. She started becoming the wonderful wife, wonderful mother. And then the husband came and thanked our team, telling that, oh, we thought we have to get a complete psychiatric treatment. They were at the verge of going and divorcing her also. So this is one example I would
I
tell,
know.
that even in adulthood, ADHD is there, and those are the people who are also being manipulated sometimes, and they are also suffering in their, like, they don't get to the right job, because the boss should
I
understand their
know.
strengths and the negative aspects also.
Well, the one more myth is they always say that the boy child talks later. How far it's true?
It's absolutely not true.
Okay.
It's a very common myth, and that's an important reason why the boys are diagnosed very late, and they
Oh.
come very late for the treatment also, to the expert, because of the fact telling that boys always speak late.
Oh, that's
So
sad.
sometimes there may be grandparents telling that, yeah, my son also spoke late, so it's okay. I really don't know what exactly they mean by that, because I don't think that can be true. So
Okay.
anything beyond 2 years, if the child doesn't speak, that has to be dealt with.
Okay. So
Needs
you have to
requires
handle it and you have to
yes.
be aware of it also. Okay. There's somewhere, I feel as a member of the society, if we have to see a child with autism, what can we do as onlookers or people, like, I'm not talking as doctors.
Yes.
I'm saying when you are in a public gathering or something, I have seen sometimes some kid with autism and then your heart goes out to the mother, but then what can we do?
First, we also as a society should start being accepting.
Okay.
We should have an acceptable environment, immediately telling, or that why don't you take the child away, or my child, after seeing that child might have a problem, all that. Even rather, the way we are going to accept those children, our children, the next generation also should be raised with the idea that these differences in their development, or deviation in the behavior also should be accepted as accepted, so that their problem can be addressed. So it is not that we have to separate them from a society. Rather, we should also understand and accept, okay, this is the way they behave in this situation, and then
Okay.
maybe keep quiet sometimes, or maybe, and also stop advising the mother that do this, do that,
Yeah.
or be judgmental about, oh, you did this because of this. At least we need not do anything. Either be accepting, if you can give some support emotionally or physically when the mother needs that particular, if the child is aggressive or something. If not, better to keep quiet, or not to look very differently, in a disgustive way
I
or
know.
something. That has to be avoided.
That is something we all do, right? As soon
Yes.
as you get a chance, you want to give advice.
Yes.
If it's required, not required, you're an expert, you're not, doesn't matter.
Yes.
Advice is
Free of cost.
mandatory. You have to prove yourself.
Yes.
So please don't do it henceforth. Accept the child, and if not anything, keep quiet, because the mother or the parent also needs more help than you can ever imagine. In autism, as they grow older, especially in the adolescence, their energy levels are very high, right? Generally,
Yes.
also,
Yes.
and what happens is they're very aggressive, and
Yes.
if they hear some loud noise, or they can be instigated into doing anything which they don't realize is good or bad.
Yes.
So can you say something about that? I mean, what can be done in a stage like that?
Actually, for that, it is very important to understand about the treatment, which has to be extremely tailor-made, customized for the problems these children are facing. Like there can be overlap of so many features
Yes,
between
true.
autistic spectrum disorder and ADHD. As you rightly said, they have an excellent stamina, like double, triple times like
Yeah,
what
yeah,
we
they have
have.
too much of energy.
Too much of energy. The mother becomes tired, the father becomes, the child keeps running.
Yeah.
So that they in fact becomes,
And
as
as
I
they grow older, it becomes aggressiveness
very
also.
aggressive, they become aggressive. I
Yeah.
always say drain them out physically also, because they are the ones who make excellent marathon runners,
Okay.
athletes. So that's why their strengths, when they channelize, that they become that way also. So again, that aggressive behavior. So as I said, the treatment should include not only, sometimes we tend to think that autism and ADHD can need not doesn't require any medication, it requires only therapy. And sometimes we think that low medications that be given, so we will try to manage at home. So both the extremes are not correct.
Okay.
And some children have these symptoms which require medications, and some aspects of the problem has to be addressed by a psychologist, has to
Okay.
be addressed by an occupational therapist, by a psychiatrist, by a neurologist. So this definitely has to be a teamwork first.
Okay.
The next, for the aggressive behavior and also the hyperactivity, there are that part has to be dealt by the medications. The right amount, kind of medications has to be given by the neurologist and the psychiatrist, so that those medications given at the right for the right symptom will definitely help controlling the aggression, because only then the parents also can deal with the
I know.
children when they take them around. Suppose if they're going to be aggressive and the behavior is so inappropriate, then it is becoming very difficult for the entire family.
Developmental differences are not your fault, and you cannot blame it on poor parenting either. With a lot of support and early diagnosis and intervention, the child will grow up well, thrive, and survive better. So your job is not to fix the child, but to support the child and help the child. And as a neurologist, your thought, I mean, your one line which you would advise all the parents. Please go ahead, Dr. Kavita.
So, the autistic spectrum disorder, ADHD, the learning disability are all the differences in the development of the brain, and the way the difference in the way the brain processes the information, the emotional communication, and the skills learnt by the child. And these are not the neurological or developmental diseases. They are just the differences which we have to understand. With early intervention, the outcomes can be transformed for a better life for those children.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Kavita. It was wonderful having you, and I hope everybody listening to this has, understood quite a lot, and we were quite helpful in helping you out, help your child.